Hello everybody, here we are for week 15 in the CFL. If you are new to the CFL or me, please make sure to subscribe as I do my picks and predictions for the week. That being said, let's get on into it. So the first game of the week will be Friday night as the Toronto Argonauts take on the Montreal Alouettes in Montreal. We just saw the Argos hand the Owls a 29-point loss, so that was pretty big there. And you're probably leaning towards the Argos for this pick for this week. I want to be honest with you, so am I. There's a couple of reasons. Seems like Stanback will be out for this one. Curly Gittens Jr. might miss as well, but Curly hasn't really been crazy good this year. I hate to say that, but he hasn't had the biggest numbers. So for Toronto, it wouldn't be the craziest loss, but also there is a lot riding on this game for the Argos. If they win this game, they win the division, and they also, of course, lock up the number one seed out east. So you'd get a bye, and you'd be playing in the Eastern Final, not having to worry about having to go on the road. That would be big. The Argos would also win their third straight division title for the first time since the 1982 through 84 seasons. The moment kind of seems to be coordinating into what could be a good run for the Argos. Obviously, Montreal is going to be pretty motivated to make sure that celebrations aren't made on their home turf just yet. But at the same time, I do feel like this is going to be Toronto that has the edge here. The second game of the week will be also Friday night. You have Edmonton playing Saskatchewan, and this one is so fun. A couple weeks ago, you would have said this one would have been a snooze fest, but here we are right now. Saskatchewan, of course, is right there in the third spot for the playoffs, but Edmonton kind of has some playoff life right now with the games that they've been able to win. They've won 3 of their past 4. Now, granted, last week was it was a nail biter, and to get that last second field goal is to keep their hopes alive is kind of interesting here. Trey Ford been able to kind of rejuvenate this team, and they've been able to rack up W's, and maybe, just maybe with a win here, you would say, can they make the playoffs? Is something going to be able to happen? As for the Rough Riders, even though they kind of are still dealing with a lot of injuries, you're looking at them and saying another win would be another week closer to locking up a playoff spot. Nothing is set in stone, but they've also kind of been going back and forth with wins and losses, able to pick up a good win over the Blue Bombers, only to get spanked by him a week later. It happens. You're not the first team to have that happen too. And you are going to be playing an Edmonton team that is not underdogs by a lot. I think the Rough Riders are favored by just 1.5 points, which is a really cool thing to see there, because a couple weeks ago, again, this game would not have been projected to be this close. Who am I picking here? I'm picking the Rough Riders. It feels wrong considering how good Edmonton's been in the past few weeks in terms of getting the wins. But at the same time, they picked up a win over Hamilton and Calgary, stuff like that. Neither of those teams impressed me, and while the Rough Riders don't impress me week in and week out every week, they are a team that was able to beat the Blue Bombers. They are a team that's been able to cause fits for some other good teams. So I do think I'm going to go with the Rough Riders here, which would, again, put them one step closer to making the playoffs. And I think that'd be really good, considering not all people were expecting playoff football for the Rough Riders this year. The third game of the week will be a rivalry game, and that, of course, is Winnipeg playing Hamilton in Hamilton. Big game for both sides. I don't think that there's much for Winnipeg to officially play for. They can't win the division this week, but again, being one step closer with BC, kind of not really breathing down their neck, but just kind of hanging around, would be a good thing to win here. And then for Hamilton, it feels like it's pretty much guaranteed that they would be able to get a playoff spot if they win another game. Ottawa, of course, has been dropping games like crazy, and then you have Calgary that's not been winning a lot of games either. So all of those teams that you're worried about the crossover probably not happening. And then Edmonton obviously has a lot of ground to gain as well. Hamilton has not been great, but they've been able to stay alive, which is the good news for Orlando Steinhauer, because he very well could be fired if they don't win a playoff game this year. And I do think it's going to take them not only getting the playoffs, but probably winning a game as underdogs. For this game, they're going to be playing underdogs here, of course, against a team that has crushed their hopes in the Grey Cup twice in 2019 and 2021. I'm going to say that they crushed their heart here again and give them a maybe not a big loss, but I do think it could be a big loss. I've said that before about Winnipeg, and they've kind of been a letdown in terms of guaranteed picks. So Hamilton fans, if you are looking at this saying, well, he almost said it's a guaranteed pick, and that's burned him a couple times this season, so there's hope. And I guess in that sense, yes, there is hope. And then the final game of the week, again on Saturday, really looking forward to this game as a BC fan. Ottawa travels to BC, and the CFL didn't post this, but I do think 99% sure that if the Lions win this game, they will clinch a playoff spot. So that would mean 3 out of the 6 available spots would be locked up. The West obviously gets a lot more clear in terms of what's going to happen there. And for the Lions, it would be back-to-back playoff berths, which would be really cool to see kind of some stability when things derailed a little bit towards the later 2010s. And then obviously 2021 wasn't our year. And for the Lions, this is going to be a game where you're really motivated to get the job done. For Ottawa, you know that if you lose this game, I mean, it's might as well just throw in the towel. I think for some teams that are out there, I'm not going to say what teams particularly, that there are a few that are probably understanding that it's already over, and they really just kind of want to rain on other people's parades. Totally understandable and fine. In this game, I'm going to be picking the Lions. Ottawa's lost 6 in a row. Yes, they do have something to play for in terms of pride, but I really feel like their season, unfortunately, is already over for playoff hopes. BC knows they need to get a win. This is an easy win. Nothing is ever officially easy, but against a team that really can't find any momentum right now, that is going to be throwing out a quarterback that's had some highs and lows, and you're hoping to have just a little bit more of a close match between Winnipeg and BC for the top spot out west. But anyway, those are my picks for the week. We have Toronto, we have Saskatchewan, we have Winnipeg and BC. So the favorites in all of them, but again, the Saskatchewan game is not that big of a favorite, so hoping for good games this week. I don't want to be a homer and say that I want the Lions to win. I do want the Lions to win if Ottawa wins. It's not the end all be all, because I do see BC making the playoffs, and I don't really see us winning the division, so I'm not going to be absolutely devastated. We will see. Calgary, of course, will be watching this game intently as they're on the bye. What are your picks for the week, though? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.